Should you be mowing your fall leaves? This has become a real popular process, but it's not always the best idea, and it's not always necessary. I'm here to tell you that most of you should not be mowing your leaves. Now, there are lots of things you can do with the fall leaves. In the olden days, we used to burn them, and that's terrible for the environment. And it means that you don't get good use out of the leaves. So don't do that. That's the worst option of all. Another option is to bag them up and send them off with the garbage to the dump. That's just as bad as burning them. We don't want any organic matter at the city dump. And the reason is that it doesn't compost properly there. Instead, it's an anaerobic process and it produces methane. And methane is a lot worse for the environment than CO2. What has become popular in the last few years is that people rake them up and they put them into paper bags or sometimes plastic bags. They put them to the curb, and then the city comes and picks those up and composts them. That's better than the first two options, but it's still a terrible way to deal with these leaves. Two main reasons why you don't want to do that. One, you miss the benefit of the leaves. This is organic matter. When it decomposes and gets into your soil, it improves your soil. It improves the nutrients for your plants. Your plants grow better. This organic matter is going to increase the number of microbes in your soil. You want to keep it on your property. When you take it to the city, it does get composted, so it gets used. But think about this. Someone has to make these paper bags. That's not good for the environment. The city has to send trucks to your property to pick them up. That's not good for the environment. And then once we have compost made, the city takes trucks and takes it somewhere. Whenever you're doing things in the garden, I want you to start thinking about the effect on the environment. Taking them to the street and letting the city compost them is not a good option. You want to keep these leaves on your property. So a lot of gardeners have learned that. And so what they now do is they get out their lawnmower and they mow over them. That cuts the leaves into smaller pieces, and then they use that as mulch in the garden. At least the leaves are now being used, so it's better than the previous options. But think about this. While you're running this mower over your leaves, you're polluting the air around your garden. These types of motors are terrible for the environment. They're wasting gas, they're producing pollutants which are going into the air. None of that is good for the environment. Now, if your lawn needs mowing, and you're mowing the lawn, and you happen to collect some of the leaves along the way and cut them up, that's great. Now, you might decide not to have a lawn, but that's a topic for another day. Assuming you do have a lawn, and it needs mowing, go ahead and mow it and get rid of some of the leaves at the same time. And whether you're using one of these push mowers or riding mowers, neither one of them are great for the environment. Now, I know some of you are saying, well, I use an electric mower now. Okay, but where do you think the electricity comes from that you use in your electric mower? We have to produce that. And the production of electricity is not good for the environment. Now, maybe it's a little better than running one of these gas mowers, but it still harms the environment. So what can you do? I mean, I go online and there's lots of places that say, just leave the leaves. They'll decompose on their own. Well, if you do that on your lawn, you're going to kill your lawn. That's not a good idea. I don't know where people came up with that idea, but letting too many leaves on your lawn kills it. Now, I'm talking about cool growing grass here. Our grass in the wintertime is still alive and still growing. If it's green, it's photosynthesizing. It's growing. And in fact, in the north, we grow cool growing grasses. They like it cool. You can't cover them with leaves. You smother it. You kill the grass. So that's not an option. Now, what about leaving these leaves in the garden bed? Well, a lot of people are concerned that it will smother their plants. But in most cases, that won't happen. Now, if you have a rock garden and you have very tiny plants, you don't want to put big leaves on that. That will kill those plants. They need dryness in the wintertime. But in most perennial beds, certainly in beds with trees and shrubs and taller things like hostas, you can just take these leaves and put them on your flower beds. You don't have to shred them. There's no real value in shredding them except it decomposes faster. But if you're using these leaves as a mulch in your flower beds, you don't want fast decomposition. You want those leaves hanging around. In my garden, these beds that you see around me, will get covered in leaves. The plants are fine, and the leaves will be there until about next August, and then they're gone. Nature takes care of them by having other things chew them up and taking them into the soil. Let me show you this bed over here. It's right under big sugar maples, and it gets covered in a foot of leaves every winter. It's fine. The plants under there do really well. Now, it is important that in the spring I come along and I rake some of those leaves off. So I only leave about 3 or 4 inches of leaves, and the excess I have to either take to my compost pile or put them in other beds. In fact, what I do with these leaves is I rake it over to my small composter. And I use that composter for kitchen scraps. So every couple days we come up, we throw some scraps in there, and I take a handful of leaves and throw that in. Those leaves suck up that moisture and balance the high nitrogen material in the kitchen scraps with the high carbon material of the leaves, and so we get good composting that way. So I use those leaves all summer long in that compost bin. So you've got lots of choices as to what to do with your leaves. The absolute best choice is to leave them alone. Don't chop them up, but move them into your garden beds. The second best choice is to chop them up, but only do it when the lawn needs mowing. Don't go out there for an afternoon and run this machine just so you can compost the leaves. But whatever you do, even if you use the lawnmower, I'd rather have you do that than move them off your property. This is valuable organic material that should stay on your property. It's going to improve your garden, it's going to improve your soil, your plants will grow better. Keep it here. It's a valuable resource. Don't get rid of it. If you want to learn more about composting, have a look at my book, Compost Science for Gardeners. Or if you'd like to watch more videos, here's some that I picked especially for you. Happy gardening. All right, that's a take.